Hello everybody and welcome to Farscape Rewatch. I'm CantWearHats and joining me is RedNightmare.
Hello!
And this is episode 14 and it's the episode called Jeremiah Crichton.
I was trying to sound like some sort of hillbilly instrument. I think I feel... Thank you. That's way better than whatever that was. Whatever I produced.
I'm gonna try not to worry about it. But yeah, this is like I said, this is episode 14. We've just come off the Flax, and we just had, if you remember the last episode, we were very excited about Aaron and John getting together. And yeah, everything's looking great. Right?
Yeah, there's nothing about that is in this episode.
Yeah,
I'm very sorry to spoil that right out the gate.
Spoilers right off the bat. I'm gonna be honest. I think we have some problems with this episode.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it.
Let's go.
We'll get into
unwrap our feelings as we go.
I like that. I like that. That's good.
I think I might be a bit more positive than Hats, but not by a wide margin.
All right, so let's kick it off because we start out with Dargo and Crichton are in one of the internal compartments of Moya, one of like the systems, and they're basically trying to remove a blockage that's been caused by
something.
It's Dargo says it's because Moya's pregnant, and Crichton used his engine pods in the docking bay, like burning chemical fuel because of his primitive spaceship, and Moya had like a reaction to that because she's pregnant and was protecting the baby.
Yes.
And so it's trying to remove it, and they're both kind of fed up. They're bickering with each other. And so like it gets part of it out, and then John's like, "F this." And goes,
yeah, because John's kind of fed up with everything and just being a dick. I'm sorry, he's just being a dick.
I mean, I can understand his frustrations because he's having a hard. He does have a hard time, like, still has a hard time fitting in with everyone because he goes out and he says to Zan, "It's like I'm fed up," and she's like, "Fed up? What is that?" It's like, "Oh right, another translation I have to explain." It's like, "No, I haven't eaten too many food cubes," and and it's like, on the one hand, it's like you know these are all colloquialisms, John, and they don't all translate well, but also it's like I now have to change how I talk because I am far too, human about speaking. But he is being a dick about it.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
He is being a dick about it.
He's being such an asshole. He even takes it out on Aaron a little bit, who has literally done nothing wrong.
Yeah, that's what I found weird, is that, like, there's no indication that they have feelings for each other at all in this episode.
Nope.
And I'm just going to check something here. Production order. No, this was made after the Flax, so there's no excuse for it.
Huh.
But yeah, he's pissed off at everybody basically because he's getting frustrated with still not properly fitting in. And so he's going to go for a drive to clear his head. He's going to take his module out and just get away, So he does. He takes his module out. And he also says that he's run out of his old chemical burning fuel.
Yeah.
And now he's just using Moya's technology to fly. So he takes the module out, and then and now plot device crunch.
Moya basically starbursts from his perspective.
Well, yeah, because the blockage that they were trying to remove didn't come out properly. And Moya is trying to compensate for that.
I think it's mostly that. What I expect is that the blockage is somehow causing energy buildup, and the only way she can release it is by starbursting.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
That was my theory on this one.
Yeah, okay. No, I'll buy that. And so, yeah, but John is outside of Moya at this point, and Moya just boom starbursts out of there. It's like goodbye.
And John's like, "I'm a dead man."
Well, first of all, he's like, "You're just ditching me?"
I get grumpy once and you ditch me?
Yeah. And then he's like, "Oh shit, I'm dead."
Yeah, because for at least the shots we saw, there's Apparently no planets in the neighborhood.
They're not around one. There's nothing nearby. Yeah.
Oh, they're not orbiting any.
And so he's going to be stranded in space. Oh, how is he going to survive? We come back from the titles and he's on a planet. He's fine.
Yeah. He's got a beard and it's clearly time has passed and he's on an idyllic beach and everything.
It's also clearly a fake beard.
Now that you mention it, actually, yes. That's what was bugging me.
So yeah,
I thought it was the hair. It's actually the beard.
So yeah, he's actually fine and is living a pretty idyllic life. So there goes that tension.
Yeah.
Like, how's he going to survive? He's fine. He's actually fishing a big crab-looking thing and seems to be enjoying himself. And,
yeah.
And then a woman appears whose name's Lashala.
A human woman.
A human-looking woman.
There's no... all the aliens in this episode, all of them look identical to humans. There is no different characteristic at all.
The only unique thing about them is they're sort of tribal dressed, and they've got purple and orange clothing, and
but
not much clothing.
They could be any group of humans dressed like that.
We'll say that they're an offshoot of Sebaceans. Why not?
Sure.
Sure, let's go with that.
Sure. Makes no sense later on, but sure, we'll go with that for now.
I mean, what else are they? Like random people who look exactly human? Anyway.
It's happened before.
That's true. It's basically like, here's a tribal society of people, and, they're all warrior race guys, or, like, it's that kind of native trope. It's really just tired. I've seen this shit a million times.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Lashala is the woman's name, and she goes to speak with John, says, do you want some food? And offering food... And he says, here, have some of this big crab thing that I just caught. And she's like, oh, but offering food signals to a woman signals your affection. And I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sake. We're doing this trope as well.
Yes,
lovely.
Yes, we are.
Great.
Yes,
I haven't heard that one before.
Oh.
And then she's like, I've made you a map of the stars to get you home. There's actually quite a nice bit where...
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah, because he's like, here's the map of the stars. Where is your home? He's just got like a rock trying to, and then just throws it in the lake.
Yeah, gives it an enormous chuck. Like, my home is right about... Turns around, flings the thing into the air, chucks in the lake a few hundred meters behind him. About there.
Yeah. No, that yeah, I did like that.
That was a nice scene.
And then troping intensifies because a man appears called Rokon.
Yes.
And he's dressed in the kind of stereotypical way. He's got no shirt and he's just got like other stuff. I think, is he carrying a big pointy spear? Anyway, he's a warrior.
Not in this scene, at least.
He's a warrior, whatever. And he says, your father demands you return to the village and stuff. And he's like, oh, so... I think she's like the leader. She's the leader's daughter. It's like, oh, okay, John got involved with, quote, a princess, right?
Right.
Yeah.
God. Now that you're spelling it out to me, this gets worse and worse.
Yeah, it's not good.
No.
Anyway, he says...
Again, as she leaves, minor good scene here is that as she leaves, Rokon says to John, oh, you caught a baby. Like, it's a huge-ass crab, and apparently it's a baby. Please don't catch them any smaller than that. Yeah, and I like this because that's
conservationism.
I mean, I was basically making sure your food supply doesn't run out. Being like, okay, make sure you only catch the adult ones that have already had kids, otherwise you run out of your food at some point.
Smart. Yeah. And Rokon also says to John, "You're probably never going to leave this place, which is called Aquara."
Mm-hmm.
And Crichton says, "No, I don't really want to. It's feels nice here. I like it."
Of all the places I've been, it's probably the best.
I'm not quite sure I buy it, but anyway.
Oh.
And here's the other thing: like, there's clearly been a time skip here because Crichton's got a beard and all that, and we learn that Moya is actually still searching for Crichton, and it's been, I think they say, a quarter of a cycle.
So 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months. And everyone's getting tired of looking. And I really like this. I do like this, that Dargo is the one who insists they keep looking.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere to me.
I do. I mean, it's in. Yeah, it's potentially a bit out of character. I mean, Dargo says he feels guilty about them driving Crichton away, and Zan is actually prepared to just be like, you know what, he's gone. Goodbye.
Yeah, I'm done.
And he's like, you know, it's his fault for getting mad at us, and Dargo's like, we are kind of a pain to deal with. There's some self-awareness from Dargo that we don't often see.
Which I find it interesting that it's Dargo, because a few episodes ago we've established that the relationship between John and Dargo is not a friendship, it's one of respect.
Yeah, but you don't leave your comrades behind, right?
Fair enough,
Yeah.
that is. I mean, you chop off their arms, but you don't leave them behind.
Anyway, and Aaron also agrees they should keep looking.
Okay, they've been looking for 3 months.
Yeah.
Had you told me they've been looking for half an hour, I would have believed you.
That's the problem I have with
There
this
is
episode, right?
Nothing. I think they're even dressed the exact same
Yeah.
as the last scene we saw them.
It really just completely undercuts the fact that the idea that there's been this big time skip, because nothing appears to be any different apart from Crichton has a beard. I mean, like this episode could have taken place in a much shorter time frame. Like, it didn't need to be 3 months. It could have been like a week, and and nothing would have.
3 weeks would have worked way better.
Nothing would have changed.
No, because he's still pissed off. I mean, his beard would have grown fine. He has a quick beard.
Maybe,
growth.
well, maybe you could just have some stubble or something.
Actually, would have been easier. Just let Ben Brown.
Wouldn't have looked as fucking stupid as his fake beard did.
And he would have still had the same experience and the same. I mean, his connection with people would be slightly less, but.
I mean, he's been living away from them. He doesn't have much of a connection with them. He's been living in his module, like, outside the village.
But Hats, in 3 weeks, the princess couldn't have fallen for him.
Actually, yes, she could have.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's my point as well.
Basically, this episode sets up a bunch of stuff that it doesn't deliver on.
Yes. If you do a time skip, actually do a time skip for everybody, not just one half of your cast, which in this case is John. Everybody else just has no time skip.
The other thing is that we don't really see him. We don't see him find this place and land and try and integrate himself, and then do a time skip, which I think might have been a little better to get an indication that he's, you know,
time has passed.
Time has passed. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just like boom, we come back and it's been 3 months later. It's like, what?
I do like that. As John apparently is also asked to go to the Elder, he's very culturally aware about these people. He has learned how they greet each other. He knows that as he comes into the hut, the head of the tribe invites him to sit next to him.
Yeah.
Which John says, like, I think that's a very big honor, and I don't want to dishonor your hunters by basically doing that.
This is a bad idea. Actually, John seems like he's a little bit trope savvy here, because he's like, wait, if I sit next to you, I'm going to piss off that warrior guy who also is interested in Lashana. Like, I don't want to fall into this trope here, but he does. He does. Because,
to be completely fair, John has no interest in this princess.
No, he really doesn't. He's like, I just want to live my life, fish some crabs, and that'll be fine.
And he's like, I know that I'm not of these people, and I just don't want to do this.
He actually says he doesn't want to interfere in their ways. He's got some Prime Directive stuff going on here.
But interestingly, in this culture, actually, it's the man who attracts the woman, and the woman that chooses the mate.
Yeah, the mate for life, by the way.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't think I want to, you know...
I don't think I want to make a commitment that strong after 3 months.
Yeah, and so, of course, Rokon sees them sitting next to the head of the tribe, which is called the Grondir. They have a whole bunch of extra terms for things, and it's... Yeah, whatever. But
in one ear, out the other with me.
Basically. And but Rokon's mother, who's the high prieston, because priestess or priest wasn't good enough, apparently...
Wait. They call it prieston?
Yep, prieston.
I didn't even hear that. I just assumed they said priestess.
I noticed it a bit later on in the episode, but I've been checking like the background of this episode, and they're referred to as a prieston, and and she's like, and she's saying you need to marry Lisha, Lashana, so you can become Grondir and we can rule this place together. It's
the evil religious
priest. Yeah,
evil priest.
We've apparently landed on Trope Planet 4. You know.
Yeah, one planet more closer to the sun is where all the all the superhero tropes live.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like I expect this kind of shit from like old Star Trek, you know. Like,
yeah,
this is stuff we've seen done to death.
I mean, to his credit, Rokon seems kind of an honest guy at this point.
Yeah.
Like, look, Mom, I'm not gonna do that. You nuts? It's your choice.
Exactly. He's prepared to, go with what Lashana wants. And then all of the tension of are we going to find Crichton, are we going to get him back, is broken.
As they find him.
Because they're like, oh shit, there he is. Like, that's the problem I have with this episode. They set up, like, Crichton's gone, they have to get him back, and that tension is all solved within the first 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. Because they're like, there's
10 minutes.
Yeah, 10, even.
Not 15, trust me. That wasn't 15 minutes.
And, basically, Rigel, Dargo, and Zan, Aaron, they were like, we've searched these plans. There's this one. I found a thing that's probably his... there he is. Let's go get him. It's like, okay, tension over. Done. Bored now. So, like, let's go get him and get out of here. So,
okay, well, I mean...
That's a short episode, right?
Yeah, sometimes you don't have as much time. And it's better to do a short episode than stretch one out that's not very interesting.
Well, funny you should say that. So yeah, Rigel and Dargo go down on the planet in one of the transport pods, and they lose power on the way down. We don't see it; we just see them walking away from the pod once they've landed. But Rigel's complaining about the last bit of the journey, and Dargo says, "Well, we lost power. What do you want?"
You just dropped out of the sky the last bit.
Yeah, and they spotted Crichton's pod on their last pass. So they know he's here. They're going to go get him. That's like that whole setup and that 3-month time skip is done with and dealt immediatis and is wasted.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
like it's a massive waste.
It's just so John can have the excuse for that ridiculous beard,
which just looks so dumb and very obviously a fake beard.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, as they're walking down the beach side that they've come to, Rigel's floating chair stops working. Yeah,
and it just drops to the ground, and Rigel has to get out.
He has to get out.
Wait for me! No, I command you to come back and carry me.
Rigel has to get out and walk like a peasant.
I was just gonna say that. Rigel. To be fair, Rigel is on point as a character in this episode.
Yeah, Rigel is basically the only saving thing about this episode.
Yes, very much.
And so we see that Crichton is on his way home from the village. He's going back to his module, and he gets ambushed by Rokon and some warriors.
Yeah.
And then Dargo appears and rescues him.
Yeah. And he cuts Rokon
across the chest. They're all terrified of... Dargo as well, because he's like this weird looking alien. Because here's the thing, is that it's awfully convenient because they are not spacefaring people. They're stuck on this planet. They seem to know a bit about space and that because they have like the star map and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think they say at one point their ancestors were spacefaring, but they're not.
Yeah.
So it's awfully convenient that John looks like them, otherwise he wouldn't have been so ingratiated into their culture.
Yes.
But when they see Dargo, they basically shit a brick.
Because, oh my god, scary tall man with tentacles. Ah!
And so Dargo shows up, rescues Crichton, and again, like that whole thing of... Basically, Crichton's... They found him. They found him. After 20 minutes of show, or however long it's been.
15.
Again. Yeah.
Subtract 5 minutes.
I think I'm
enough time has passed because it hasn't. I mean, then John's like, okay, get lost.
Yeah, this part, I mean, he thinks that he was abandoned, basically.
Yeah. He thinks that they actually just, because he threw a fit, they left.
Yeah, which...
I mean, the fact that they're here
It should tell you something, right?
Yeah. Like, what do you think? What do you think they're doing on this backwater planet? Saving your ass.
Yeah. Yeah, and he wants Dargo to go away and leave him alone because he's found somewhere nice to be for once, and it's like, I don't really buy it.
To be honest, I don't think John buys it either. I think this is just him still, even after 3 months, this would have made way more sense in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
After 3 months, still being like that he's done with Moya. Still in that anger.
Still basically in that sort of tantrum phase.
Yeah, which...
Yeah, with the 3 month time skip, you think he'd have got over.
3 weeks, I could have... I mean, I can imagine him still being a bit pissed at that point.
Yeah, they definitely had too big of a time skip. Also, on Moya, while Rigel and Dargo have gone down, you've got Zan and Aaron having a chat to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And because they lost communication, Pilot was trying to tell Dargo that can't quite get through to you, so turn on your bit and so they know that they've lost contact and like, whoa, we should go. Zan wants either her or Aaron to go down to the planet and get them, and Aaron's like, no, we need more data.
Yeah, Aaron being scientific about this.
Or she says that. More data, but whatever.
Yeah. Data, potato.
And basically, actually, Aaron's like, Zan, you're a lot more agreeable when you're a priest. And this is the only indication that the writers of this episode actually saw previous episodes of Farscape. Because they're like, okay, Rhapsody in Blue, she decides not to go back to doing priestly things.
Yeah, she
gets rid of the robes. Yeah, and we know that there's a bit of more darkness to her. And Zan is like, don't go there, don't push that angle of, like, not being a priest anymore, because there are some lines we should never cross. And like, oh.
I mean, I do appreciate that Zan's like, look, don't. Just
don't
back off. You don't want to have this fight with me right now.
And so back with Crichton, Rigel, and Dargo. Basically, they're back at Crichton's module, and Rigel is Rigel is asleep in Crichton's tent.
Of course he is.
He's snoring his head off, and Crichton just throws his jacket at him, and he's like, ooh, wake up!
I was sleeping marvelously. Peasants.
And then Rigel is also just dumbfounded by Crichton's reaction, as like, you want to stay here? And he's like, you're... Go on.
Well, excuse me for wasting 3 months of my life here to find you.
And it's like, you practically sabotaged Moya with your stupid chemical rocket thing. He says, you abandoned me! And then now we get the thing. Now we get that whole tension is solved because they just sit down and chat. And Dargo's like, "No, what actually happened was that Moya starburst by herself
because we didn't fix the blockage.
Because you went out on a tantrum."
Yeah, I like that Dargo also put some of the blame back on Crichton.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you had actually finished the job we were trying to do, none of this would have happened. But yeah. And then Crichton's like, I'm surprised you actually searched for me, and it's like, and Dargo's basically like, you really think we wouldn't come and look for you? And I'm like, yes, that's absolutely right. Like, how does John just immediately thinks that they've ditched him?
Like, after everything they've been through?
Yeah, right? It's like, you really think they're not going to come at least try and look for you?
Mm-hmm. Makes no sense.
Yeah, it's kind of bullshit, really. And it basically what it is a way to set up some tension between the John and the crew, okay, that's interesting. Except for the fact that it gets solved almost immediately. From our point of view, it's like, well, that was a waste again. Anyway, back on Moya. Pilot has produced a map of the area, topographic biomap, because they can't scan for power readings because there aren't any.
Yeah, which is weird.
Yeah.
All electric technology just seems to stop working.
There is something else going on here as well. I'm like, thank fuck for that. Something else to distract us from this boring episode.
Let's hope it doesn't get resolved in 5 minutes.
So they're scanning for life forms down on the planet, and they're trying to trying to doing that to figure out where Crichton and Dargo and the others are, which is not an exact science. It's not as precise as it could be.
And I like that at some point, Pilot is like, okay, I've pinpointed 3 more advanced life science, and Aaron's like, well, we know for sure that's not them.
Hey.
I like that burn.
And also, Crichton is now telling Dargo, they're sitting down having a talk about why do you like this place so much, and he's like, this is the first place where he's found peace.
Yes.
Like, really? The first place? I mean, you remember when you landed on that planet in episode 2 with the people from the 50s, and there was that lady there who quite liked you, and you said it reminded you of home. Like, this is the first place that you found somewhere you could be.
It's the second place, John. It's the second place at least.
Yeah.
And I also like that he goes on a rant about I've had aliens shoved in my stomach,
up his nose,
up my nose,
down my pants,
in my brain. I'm like, wait, what? Inside your brain? When did that happen?
Translator microbes?
Fair. Yeah, that's probably in there.
We didn't see the one where it gets shoved down his pants, though. I think a lot of this is alluding to stuff that happened off screen.
That is fair.
He's like, there's nothing bad is happening here. I'm fine. It's peaceful. Nothing's happening. It's like, okay. And then, of course, Lashala turns up and sees Dargo there talking to them.
Yes, and actually at this point, Rokan has gone back to the village and talked about Dargo arriving and this whole discussion if Dargo and John are actually dangerous or not between the priestess and the head of the tribe.
Yeah, and like I said, they're terrified of Dargo because he's taller than all of them, basically.
Yes,
and has weird tentacle, and he's just an alien.
These people are just racist.
I mean, this guy, from their point of view, Dargo showed up and attacked them.
Yeah, well, not after they were trying to kill John.
That is also true.
That part, of course, conveniently gets left out in the explanation. Rokan doesn't want to get into that.
Yeah, he doesn't want to get into trouble with
no.
I was ambushed by this alien who
came out of nowhere, attacked unprovoked, no reason at all for him to attack us.
And so basically, Lashala is trying to convince John, like, okay, if you say that Dargo's not a threat, take him to the village and explain what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's like, I see no way this can possibly go wrong.
By the way, she also kisses him in this scene. And this is where actually my notes started with, damn it, Kirk.
Yeah, this is basically his kind of Kirk moment. A little bit.
No, this is his third Kirk
moment. Yeah, he's
like we had the second one in the Flax and the first one in PK Tech Girl.
Yeah, but he's still. I mean, he says he doesn't want to get involved, but he can't really. Like, he does say repeatedly he can't control. I mean, can't control what Lashala wants.
Yeah, but he does continuously try to say to her, like, no, this is not something we should do, and I actually want to do.
Yeah, I just want to live by myself. I'm not interested, basically.
Yeah.
And so they're on their way back to the village, and guess what? They get ambushed again.
Hey!
Basically, they get ambushed in the stupidest way possible. Like, they have really small nets thrown over their heads, and apparently this completely incapacitates Dargo. A Luxon warrior who just earlier beat up like 5 other people.
But they didn't have a net back then. It's a net hat.
Yes,
Look,
right. Of course.
If they had a plasma rifle or a cannon or a tank, he could have dealt with that. But a net?
No, can't deal with that. No, nets. Oh, my one weakness.
I was gonna say my one.
It's such a dumb. Anyway, they capture both of them, or they capture all of them. They capture Lashala, John, and Dargo, and they go to basically take all of his stuff. And Rydell hears them coming, so he just hides in a little bag.
Yeah. Like, oh no.
Oh shit.
Pulls it over his head and just lies down. I'm not here. I'm not here. I'm not here.
So they pick, and of course they pick him up and take him back with them. And Crichton and Dargo have been charged with assaulting the Grondier's personal guards.
Yes, and for that they must be punished to death.
They must be killed to death.
That's not what they actually say. That's just me interpreting that. As they're talking about this, the head of the tribe is like, okay, you have to be punished to death, but because you've been a good friend, I'll just put you to forced labor for the rest of your life, I think, or something. And
Yeah.
and I like that the priest is like, no, the laws are quite clear. This man creature is an abomination. And at this point, I like John and Dargo just looking at each other.
I've got
I've
got that in my notes. I was going to bring that up as well, like the little look they share between each other
Yeah.
when they says this man creature. They're like, the fuck.
Which is funny because that's about the response John had in the first episode to Dargo.
Yeah. Like, no, the law, and yeah, the priestess woman, Nera, who is Rokon's mum, is like, yeah, you have to kill them, and the law is explicit, and the Grand
He's like, the law is my domain and my choosing to apply.
and then Rigel falls out of the bag.
Yeah, he basically makes a noise, they startle, they open the bag.
And they're like, what's in there? And Rigel comes out of the bag, and everyone starts worshipping him.
Yes. And first of all, I'm like, oh god damn it, this trope again.
Then there's a reveal where there are like some rock statues, like 3 of them, lined up on the beach, and like John is looking at them like, wait a minute, and you see that when they all line up, they form the outline of a Hynerian's head.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I see what's going on here.
Oh, it's like, damn it. And I do like the priestess's face on this. As everybody's praying, she looks around and it's like, oh shit.
Oh, the jig's up, boys!
That's the exact look she has. It's like, well, there goes my retirement fund.
I think the last thing a lot of, certainly in fiction, like there's like the last thing priests want is for their god to actually show up.
I think a lot of the last thing they want is their gods to actually exist.
Oh, so yeah.
It was way easier when you weren't a real thing.
Yeah, it's much easier when you weren't here.
That's a nice sentence. I should remember that one.
And so yeah, they're worshipping him, and Rigel's like, oh, pardon Dargo and Crichton, and so they're basically they're in like in a hut, and Rigel's got like a little thing around his neck and a crown,
And he's looking smug as ever, especially at that shot as they're all praying. The camera then looks at him from below, and he's like with the sun in the back, and he's like, ah, yes, finally the recognition I deserve.
And so Dargo's telling Rigel there's going to be a celebration. You'll fulfill your part in the prophecy, because of course it's a prophecy.
Ooh, they're gonna burn him, aren't they?
Yeah, I saw this one coming a mile away.
That was my first response when I saw this, like, that's just, they're gonna, I noted down just to be sure, so like, they're gonna burn him, I bet. Like, I didn't know if they were gonna, but at that point I was like, that's exactly what they're gonna do, isn't it?
Yeah. And so they don't know what the prophecy is, and Rigel says to Nera, the priestess, is like, oh yes, yes, of course, the prophecy. I will need the sacred text for the to properly fulfill it. And she's like, oh yeah, sure, here you go. Only the priestons can read it. And I like Dargo's like, how did you know there was a sacred text? And Rigel's
like, all these religions have a sacred text. Try to keep up.
Yeah. And Dargo says, well, can you read it? And Rigel says, yeah, it's written in ancient Hynerian, funnily enough.
Yeah. Well, at this point, that makes sense, because the Hynerians were involved with these people. The other part is like, so the translator microbes don't do languages. Oh, I mean, written language.
Written languages, no.
Interesting. So does that mean John can't read anything?
Maybe he's been learning, but probably not, no.
Huh. I mean, it just dawned on me at this scene. I'm like, wait, they don't do written language? Huh, interesting.
Like, translator microbes are never really explained beyond, that's what allows everyone to understand each other.
Yeah, okay, fair.
And so, yeah, we're gonna find out what the Hynerians are up to. And even watching this the first time around, I was like, I get the feeling that they're gonna have, it's not. Listen, you don't make people think that you're their god for a good reason.
Well, on the other hand, as they say in Ghostbusters, if somebody asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
I mean, yeah, true.
So,
I mean, the situations are slightly different, but...
to be completely fair, actually, as this episode goes on, and I think it's already at this point in the episode also, Rigel actually doesn't want to consider himself a god. He wants to be upfront about this.
Yeah, he's perfectly okay with being a dominar and being like a mortal king, effectively, but he doesn't want to be some messiah or religious figure.
No, which I'm impressed that Rigel has that restraint, being like, okay, no, yes, you are still supposed to worship me, but in a different, actually, maybe just be my subject, but in a different capacity.
Yeah, and I can kind of see why, because judging certainly by this episode, you get into a lot more. There's a lot more that can go wrong when people think you're a god.
They expect a lot more from
yes, absolutely. And they definitely expect a lot from Rigel.
Mm-hmm.
And Crichton has found Lashala, and she's upset because it's like, you didn't tell me about Rigel being their name for his place in their religion is the Masata.
Yeah,
like,
Messiah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, Rigel is the chicken tikka masala.
With extra curry?
And basically the reason she's upset is that in their religion, the tikka masala was protecting them through the croutons, the priestons, and will take them off the planet when he turns up, whether they want to go or not.
Yeah.
For a cheeky Nando's.
Yes, pretty much that.
Yeah, that's exactly that.
I do like that she also asks him, like, are you also immortal? Why were you going to tell me that? I'm like, God damn it. First of all, he didn't want to get involved at all. He's been mentioning that repeatedly.
Yeah. And now...
dude, what do you expect from him? Really? Like...
Yeah, and basically Crichton's like, okay, listen, I'm not a spiritual being, neither is Rigel. Your Timbala, which is a sacred text thing, is wrong. Everything, basically he said everything you believe is wrong, which is kind of a hard sell, you know.
It goes over as well as you would expect.
Yeah. And he's like, no, if he's the true Masata, he'll rise up and lead them to the light. I was like, okay. If not, he will be tortured to death. Oh, okay. That.
Yep. There's the clause.
Yeah.
Being a god imposter never turns out well.
Yeah. And so the Aquarians have started up the celebration, and Rigel has figured out what actually the text has been saying, and what actually has been happening here, that the ancestors of the Aquarians were colonists, and because they say actually they're really far away from Hyneria, they're out in the middle of nowhere in the uncharted territory, so how come these people are revering you? It's like, well, they were colonists sent out during the reign of Rigel X to expand the influence of the monarchy.
Shit ton while ago.
Yeah, a long time ago, because if you remember, Rigel is the 16th, and as best we can tell, Hynerians certainly lived for multiple hundreds of years.
Yeah, because I think he was disposed like 100 or 300 cycles ago?
Yeah, something like that. And
deposed, sorry.
And they were abandoned by the Hynerians. And also, the power drain that has been happening to this village this whole time, and why nothing works, is deliberate.
Yeah, it's a device the Hynerians apparently dropped here to keep them from basically technologically advancing further than this.
Yeah, and they're forced to live on that planet, unable to go anywhere, and it's used as control and to devoutly worship the family of Rigel.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're keeping them, I guess, quote, primitive is their idea, and worshipping the Hynerians so that Hynerians can turn up again and take them back when they want to and exert control over them. And it's kind of a bit sinister, really.
I mean, first of all, the Hynerians are being a bunch of assholes in this one. Like, holy crap, that is At least peacekeepers just kill you.
Yeah, and to his credit, Rigel also seems kind of distressed by this idea.
Mm-hmm.
He's not okay with it either.
No, he's like, no, I would like these people to just at least be free or go back to Hyneria.
Yeah, and like you said, like he doesn't want, like putting themselves up as gods is kind of unseemly and is not okay.
Yeah.
Just, rule them with an iron fist, but, don't be a god.
Yeah. Like, and we don't even know how Rigel rules. He might have been actually a very benevolent ruler.
Really? Really?
Now that I say this out loud, you make a very good point. Damn it. No.
I don't think he would have
right.
been... I don't think Rigel would be a particularly cruel ruler, but he would certainly be a very needy one.
I mean, sure, he can be needy, but it's like, okay, you accommodate me in my needs, therefore I pay you back. I mean, I could see him being that kind of ruler. Being like, he has high standards what he expects from them, but he also has high standards what he expects himself to do for them.
Mm.
I could... You're probably right that that's not the case.
We don't know, but like we said, he doesn't want to be revered as a god. He's like, right, here's how we're going to sort this out. We're going to, I'll explain it to them, and it will be fine. Dargo's like, that's not going to work. And
People revere you as a god.
it's like,
And it's like, well, I'm not a god.
basically,
At that point, of course, the priestess was listening in.
yeah, I like that because the huts that they have basically like a bead door. It's not really a door. It's like beads hanging down in front of the doorway.
Bead curtain.
And people have been coming in and out. At one point, Rachel says, "Doesn't anybody knock?" Which I thought was quite funny. But then she's just like listening in when he says, "I'm not a god," and she's like, "Oh," and sort of backs out. So.
She has that face like, that's all I needed to hear.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And so, yeah, Rigel basically is saying, that whole lead them to the light thing, it's a metaphor. I am not a god. I am mortal. I can't lead you to the light. And he's like, and that's what Nero, I can't lead them to the light, and Nero overhears, and oh shit. Back on the other part of this plot, which is whatever. Basically, this whole time while this has been going on, Zan and Aaron have been trying to figure out how to get in touch with Dargo and John and Rigel.
Yes.
And because they can't send anything down with power because it won't work. So what they have to do is make a shielded thing, a shielded projectile to send down a map inside of it. And they need it to be shielded so that they can tell it where to go properly and like shoot it down there. And I do like at one point when they're trying to do this, Aaron says, like, I actually don't know enough of the science. I actually need Crichton.
Yeah.
For some of this. And it's like, yeah, see, he's not entirely useless.
No, he's pretty good at tinkering with stuff.
But they've but they've made the projectile so they shoot it down there, and because they found where the location of the power drain is.
And also where John, Dargo, and Rigel are.
Yeah, so they're like, right, we've got all the information, let's shoot it down there, let's get them back, let's see what we can do.
I mean, they realize that we can't communicate with them directly and we can't bring them back, but we might be able to point them in the right direction for that power drain.
Yeah, so they can turn it off and then get out by their own power.
Yes.
And so they fire it down there, or so they get ready to fire it down. And meanwhile, Rigel is doing his spiel. He's gone out to try and basically put things on hold for a bit.
Yeah, like, I know that this ritual is very important, and as it says, we need to take, but I would like to take all my time and get to know you better before
I look forward to working with you all in the future.
Yes, exactly. He says that literally, like, but it's interesting because he's stammering half the time. I'm like, isn't Rigel supposed to be a way better bluffer than this?
Yeah.
Because we've seen him do that in the flags.
Yeah, he's supposed...
Well, high off his kite. High as a kite, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. It must be a little bit different when you've got an entire tribe of people looking at you, being like, "You're our god, you're our god."
To be completely fair, I think having a group of people saying I'm their god would be less stressful than a gun pointed at my head.
True, He didn't have a gun at his head last episode, though.
Oh yes, he did.
Did he?
During the end of the game.
You're
At some
right.
point, the bad guy's henchman just pulls out a gun.
Yeah.
It's like, make the deal.
You're right.
Tell us where he is.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he flubbed his rolls. Who knows?
Yeah. The dice were cold that night.
But basically, yeah, it doesn't work. And Nero... actually, hang on a minute. It works, but it works a little too well because he says, I can't lead you to the light. And so Nero's like, false god! False god! False god!
False god! Everybody starts chanting, false god! False god!
These people don't take a lot of convincing.
No.
Like, seize him! And Dargo and Crichton actually managed to escape somehow.
Yeah.
They're just
I like that John's
bye.
first... I like that John's first response is to protect Rigel, but Dargo actually pulls him away.
Yeah, because like if we stay here, we're gonna get captured and probably killed. So let's run away. And so yeah, they've made their escape, and quite conveniently, once they've made their escape, the projectile launched by Zan and Aaron lands right next to them in the lake.
Good shot.
Yeah, nicely done. And Crichton gets it and gets the map inside. It's like, aha, this is where manages to figure out that's where the power drain is. And so yeah, they've got a way out from the sounds of things. They've got some more information. And back with the Aquarians, they're planning Rigel's death. They're planning to kill him.
Like, and Rigel's like, oh no, I understand. I mean, again, Rigel being like, I understand that the things that my people have done are very wrong, and I agree with you on that, but I am not your god, and I am still your sovereign. I mean, he's basically apologizing for the Hynerians.
Yeah.
I mean, not so much saying that, like, please don't kill me, I'm not because I'm not your god, but he is like, look, I'm sorry about this. This is not how you should have been treated.
Yeah, this is not how I would have done this.
No.
And then also like Crichton interrupts them, which I don't really buy, because Crichton just walks up and says stop, and
everybody stops,
and they do, and they're like,
look, we've established that these people are very easy to convince, right? Just a few minutes ago.
But it's just like stop, and they do, and it's like listen to me, and they do. It's like this. You were gonna kill him like a minute or two ago.
Have you ever? I mean, what am I asking? Of course, you've read the Terry Pratchett books.
Yes.
This reminds me of something Sam Vimes does at some point, where that if you talk fast enough and if you talk convincing enough, there's a few minutes where there's basically a spell where nobody will question you. I think he's using that.
Yeah.
Despite that technically only works if people see you for the first time. But
Theory of narrative causality at work here.
Yep.
And basically he says, you've been betrayed, there's a power draining device, that's why your machines don't work, and Rokon then attacks Crichton.
Yeah, being, to be honest, actually quite sensible about that.
Yeah, he's like, what are you listening to? Get him! And Dargo stops him and fights him and says, listen, you said your ancestors were spacefaring, their machines worked when they landed here, but you've been lied to, first by those who left them here, the Hynerians, and then by the Priestons, who have been manipulating you, because only they can read the sacred text. And it's like, yeah, I've seen this a million times.
Yep.
And so they attack. It's like, attacking, like, no, do not attack don't attack us. Attacking the Priestons is the highest sacrilege. It's like, you don't say.
Why would that be? And I like that Rigel's like, no. That's not the highest sacrilege. And there's a lot of things you're not telling that are in those scriptures, because I can actually read them as well.
Yeah, I like that. He actually says, like, the highest sacrilege is purposely keeping your own people ignorant and subjugated for your own glorification.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what the Hynerians did, and that's why he's so, so bothered by it.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure if that is the highest sacrilege, or that he's just making that up because that's the exact thing the priestess did.
I mean, I think it's pretty bad. Like, definitely, like, subjugating people, keeping them ignorant just to elevate yourself is a horrible thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's like, it's in the Timbala, but it's convenient that only the Priestons can read that, isn't it?
Ah, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Neera's like, but then Neera says to Rokon, kill Crichton, you must kill him!
And to Rokon's credit, he doesn't.
He takes a second, it's like, if what you're saying is true, it's like, it feels like something's up here. But it does get attacked, and it does kind of go south a little bit. And Crichton is trying to figure out a way out of this, and he realizes that the metaphor that they've been repeating, like that the Masala will lead them into the light, it's like, I
like that he looks around, and he's also already been talking to them about, look, there's a device here, it's somewhere near, and Rokar's like, okay, where is it? Like, I need some time to find it. I don't have the exact location, but it's somewhere around here. And of course the priest is like, no, not good enough, we're attacking. And then he looks around in the commotion, and he sees there's 3 stones that we've seen before that, when you line them up, are basically a Hynerian.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees 2 very tiny handprints at the bottom of the rock. And he's like, gotcha.
And he's like, aha! He just. I think I have in my notes. It's like, and Crichton grabs the ball. He grabs Rigel and runs with him like he's a football, like an American football.
He picks him up. Okay, Sparky, you're up.
It's like, and Crichton has the ball, runs down, and touchdown.
Yeah, because he grabs Rigel, he puts him down. It's like, okay, put your hands here. And he puts his hands there. And of course, the stone cracks open, a light goes into the sky, and the power drain gets lifted, and of course the prophecy is correct. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Well, here's the thing about the prophecy being correct. The Hynerians wrote the prophecy.
Fair enough.
What this is,
It's still structurally as a story, it's stupid.
Do you know what this reminds me of? Like, the idea is that at some point the Hynerian can come back, release them from that, and be their savior, and then absorb them back into the Hynerian empire or whatever. Mm-hmm. It reminds me a little bit of stuff. This is maybe a deep cut, but this is from if you've read Dune.
Nope. I have
okay.
not.
Well, listeners may get this, but there's the group of people in it called the Bene Gesserit, and basically that's exactly what they do. Is they deliberately create prophecies and religions based around them, so that they can then take control, and they create a prophecy which they can deliberately fulfill later. Which
clever.
is kind of the same thing that the Hynerians are doing here. It's also not. It's also It's also a really horrible thing to do in those books as well.
Yes.
But yeah, and so the power is back on basically, and Rigel's sled starts working again, and he gets in it, and then just rises up above everybody.
Yeah, and again we see the statue we again see Rigel being lighted beautifully, camera from below, and it's like, oh, nice shot of Rigel just being there.
And he's sort of waving like, yes, and he's like, no, I'm your sovereign, but I'm not your god.
No.
And I'm only... I actually quite like this. It's like, I'm only your sovereign, a worthy being like you.
Yeah.
That's nice.
He's very much being like, yes, I am your ruler, but that doesn't mean you are that far below
We
me.
are all in this together. Some of us are more in this together than others.
I can't imagine worse rulers, let's be honest.
Yeah, he's at least trying to say that they do actually have some things in common. They're all mortal, basically.
Yes.
Don't put me on any higher pedestal than that. And so, yeah, everything's fine. And, yeah, basically. And they're going back around the village, and Rigel is saying, oh, I wish I could, can't stay. And Kato Rei, who's the leader is saying, I wish you would. But no, I have to go. And I like this. He says, if those peacekeepers come that you told me about, it's like, yes, you never saw me. I was never here.
No, I like this scene actually between Rigel and the head of the tribe, because it's at this point they're very friendly to each other.
They're very friendly. Yeah.
Yeah, he come off as very high above tribesmen. They're almost at equal level, just talking to each other as friends.
Yeah, they're just having a laugh, and he's like, "I've prepared a gift. It's like some supplies for your journey back," and there's a whole big bundle of fruits and meats, and he says, "We've also prepared this," because earlier on, Rigel was being like fed, food by people worshipping him, and he was quite enjoying it. There was like, and he gives him basically some of his favorite jerky.
Yeah, and he's very happy about that.
It's actually quite cute because he get the tribe leader takes a piece of it and it's like, would you like to try something? It's like, oh, thank you.
And I like that also, as Rigel sees that entire stack of food, he's like, oh, you're too generous. And he means that, I think.
Yeah, and he says, well, no, you've given up and the tribe leader says, no, you've given us the greatest gift of all. You've given us our freedom. Because in the opening of this scene, we saw that they were using like a water pump and some other machinery that they'd had lying around that must have been left by the colonists, but which obviously never worked until now.
Mm-hmm.
And Rigel says, "I will not forget you." And yes, we've been freed, and right, we're off.
Yeah.
And Crichton then thanks Rokon and Lashala, and it's like, I'll miss you because I've actually changed my mind and I'm going back now.
Yeah, because I really need to go to my own people.
I also like this, that Crichton's like, I really have to apologize to everyone, don't I? And Doug's like, no, forget it. It's fine. Let's just go home.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the episode. So there we go. That was Jeremiah Crichton. It was...
One minor snag before we get into the discussion on what we thought about this episode.
Yeah.
So there's a power drain on this planet, which means that they can't basically do any electric stuff. But they seem to be stuck in basic tribalism for like several thousands of years or hundreds of years. You would have expected them to go a bit further. Like Victorian England didn't have electricity either.
I mean,
well, maybe the beginnings of
light bulbs and stuff like that, and telegrams, but
cut those things out. You could have had a perfectly functioning, more advanced society than just this.
I don't know, a steam engine or something.
Tents.
Yeah, I think the idea presented in the episode, which we may or may not agree with, the idea presented in the episode is not only did they do the power drain, they created a religion based around Hynerians that also kept them subjugated and more primitive.
I could see that. You're right.
That's the idea that I think is presented in the episode. Whether or not that is,
it's tricky to keep up for so long.
Yeah, definitely.
Also because this is only a very small tribe. I'm assuming there's a lot bigger society around this planet.
Maybe there might just be nothing. Well, they were colonists, though. Remember?
Yeah, but they should have probably been breeding a far bigger civilization than this. This is what, 200 people max?
Yeah.
Like after a few thousand years, usually a lot of people have more than 2 kids. So at some point,
yeah. Listen, this is the. I guess this is something I would probably call the Stargate effect. Like if you've seen Stargate SG-1 or any of the Stargate stuff, you'll know they go to planets all the time that supposedly have a huge population of people, of which we only see about 100.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. But this,
what I mean is like it really they very frequently manage to not unconvincingly say that there's a huge number of people there, and so that's kind of, if there is that larger group of people, that's what that feels like. It's like,
okay, yeah, I could see that.
We've been here for it's more like we've been here for thousands of years, and there's like 50 of us. So, oh yeah, how's that working out for you? Yeah. There are a lot of problems with this episode, let's be perfectly honest. Nothing that really makes... It's not like...
There's nothing major that completely breaks the episode, aside from the fact that the plot starts about halfway into the episode, once Rigel gets revealed.
The biggest problem with this episode really is it's just boring for the most part. It's not like there's not a whole lot of out-of-character stuff. It's not like, remember when we got quite upset about DNA Mad Scientist, where they chopped off Pilot's arm, and that's like angry at the characters for doing something so
that
awful.
Had nothing to do with the people who made it. It's just I slightly disagree on the writing there, but that's about as far as it went.
But this episode was just like it didn't deliver on its setup of like.
No.
the whole tension of finding Crichton and getting Crichton back is basically solved within the first 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
and then we solve some other problems in the next 20 minutes.
It's, yeah.
10 minutes, sorry. And then Rigel shows up, and that's at the point where the plot actually begins.
Yeah, when Rigel starts doing his thing, it gets a lot better, but it can't really make up for everything else. Like, Rigel is the standout part of this episode, but
they should have... Okay, let's do something interesting, because I think we have the time for this.
Yeah, no,
this
we
week.
definitely do.
How would we rewrite this episode?
I was thinking about this. It could... I think what would be better is if you just take out the whole subplot about, or the plot about John being stranded and fed up, and just have them visit this planet for a particular reason, or they crash on it because they lose power.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out that Rigel is revered as a god, and that's the rest of the episode. That's the whole episode.
I think that would work way better.
Yeah.
Because you don't, like you said, as you point out, you don't really need the whole Crichton plot. It doesn't do anything.
No, and it's almost entirely like looking for him and trying to find Crichton is solved within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, and the fact that he has some connection to these people culturally also doesn't really apply very much.
Yeah, and you could have just built that into into the rest of the episode where they start revering everyone else. Like, the whole love subplot between him and Lishala could have just been like they turn up and then she starts,
revering?
She becomes interested in him, and they get, because they're part of Rigel's retinue, they get elevated to a high position, and the warrior and Rokon gets angry at them for that, and she falls in love with John. It's like, you don't need John being stranded there. It actually does nothing and is a waste of a perfectly good plot.
I mean, I'm thinking about going the other way with this one.
Yeah,
and putting the focus on it, like maybe keeping Rigel in, but limiting it to the last bit of it. Or basically figuring out that Rigel is the way to solve it, being like the reveal of it's the Highnerians that put them there, and we need Rigel to clear this in the last 5 or 10 minutes, and the rest just being John dealing with the fact that he thinks they abandoned him, and them looking for them, and actually changing things to the characters in those 3 months.
I think I like the idea of focusing more on John's sense of betrayal, but if you had that, and basically it would be Deus Ex Rigel.
Yeah, okay.
It'd be Deus Ex Machina. Just Rigel turns up and everything's fine. Like, that is not what I would want to see. No,
you probably want to cut the Rigel part out completely.
I think what I would, if we were going to focus on John being stranded, just do away with the entire tribal aspect of that whole bunch of people, the Aquarans. Just get rid of them, and make an episode just that is Crichton trying to survive by himself and dealing with the fact that he feels abandoned.
And the fact that he'll never get home. That would require some flashbacks. I think those would work, because you want some flashbacks to Earth in such an episode.
Yeah.
Because he learned something about himself. Because you want character development in an episode like that. Problem is, was Ben Browder a good enough actor at this point to carry an entire episode himself?
I don't know. I think he probably would have been. I think he
at that point. Like, he could do it now. I don't doubt about that. But could he have done it at that point in his career?
I think so. I think he could. I've seen enough good acting from him so far that I believe that he could.
Okay. Because I could see that also being a thing. Yeah, that would also be a nice episode.
That's the problem with this episode, is that it is 2 stories trying to work... two stories at once.
Yeah.
Which don't work together, and would have been better if you had focused on one or the other. And not tried to mesh them together. I mean, also the whole stuff with the Aquarans and their tribe is incredibly trope heavy, and it's just like, I've seen this a million times, and I'm bored of it.
I mean, a trope episode done well, I can accept, but a trope episode done poorly, ugh.
They don't really do anything. That's the thing. It's like, tropes are not bad, but you need to use them well or do something interesting with them, which this episode just does not do.
Like, look at the Back and Back and Back to the Future. That is a very trope-heavy episode. The time loop episode is very tropey. but they do some really interesting things with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Like John's entire fact that he's dying several times and what that does to him emotionally. That's mostly the biggest part, actually, of that episode that sets it apart. But that's a big thing that sets it apart from all other time loop episodes.
Yeah, definitely. And also, there's a lot of the interactions. The fact that he thinks that they would just abandon him, and that in the first place, and that how fed up he is. I also kind of don't buy it.
No.
Especially when he says at the beginning, when he's leaving, it's actually there's a line where he says, "I'm sick of it." He's talking to Aaron. It's like, "I'm sick of Napoleon the 14th, Rigel. I'm sick of Blue, Zan. I'm sick of Tentacle Man, Dargo. And guess what? I'm sick of you." It's like coming straight after the Flax, where they got together and almost boned in the cockpit of the transport pod. Like, really? You were just starting to have a relationship, and you're sick of everyone, including Aaron.
Was gonna say, relieve some stress in another way.
Yeah, I don't really buy that. There's not a whole lot of. Basically, it does a lot of setup, or I don't know.
It just doesn't work.
It just doesn't work. It falls apart quite easily.
Let's just be honest. It just doesn't work. There's too many moving pieces. Too many times the tension gets relieved in 5 minutes, and it's trope heavy as shit.
Yeah, it's dull. It's kind of uninteresting. The best bits are when Rigel is trying to, do his thing. Rigel's part of the story is the best part of it, and
yes,
that comes about halfway through, and everything else is just boring. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, like I said, this is I think the first episode that we've come across that I really, really haven't liked that much.
I was kind of neutral on it until this discussion, because looking back at it, I agree this episode is not good.
No, I mean we've disliked parts of previous episodes. We've been upset with things that happened, like in DNA Mad Scientist. But on the whole, everything up to now has been actually enjoyable and really good.
Yes,
this is just. I think lazy is probably the best way to describe this episode.
I think that is very much the vibe I'm getting off this.
So this was not great, and we've had our first dud, basically.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 2 out of 5. It's not as horrible that I'm going to give it a 1 out of 5, because
2 out of 5.
It's still a story with a beginning, middle, end, and there's some good scenes in there, and as you said, Rigel's part recovers a lot. But 2 out of 5. I'm sorry.
Yep, and I would agree with that. And I have bad news. You still agree with Farscape World?
I figure going to a 2 would do that, but it's just fair.
Yeah, like I said, there's nothing. There are some redeeming features of this episode.
Yes.
So 2 out of 5.
Not enough.
So that wasn't great.
Nope.
I got to admit. We can only hope that next week's episode is better and we have a return to form, because hopefully this one is just like an outlier and whatever.
Before we leave, I want to check something. Mm-hmm. So I checked. This episode was written by Douglas Hayes Jr. And apparently he also wrote Till the Blood Runs Clear.
Yeah, which was a pretty good episode. Wasn't amazing, like certain other it wasn't my favourite episode so far, but it was okay. This must just have been like an off day for him, because
sure.
I mean, yeah, and I think he only wrote those 2 episodes in this season. So,
well, let's hope it's not. He gets a chance to redeem himself later.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's going to be it from us this week, and that was a bad one. Yeah, hopefully we'll get a better one next week. Episode 15, which is coming up next, is called, even the title should give away what's going on here.
Yes.
Episode 15 is called Durka Returns. And
Durka, as we know, the man that tortured Rigel and whose corpse we saw in PK Tech Girl.
What? Bum bum bum! Already, I'm more excited for this than
yes.
This previous
I really
episode.
want to know what's happening here.
I'm looking at the summary, and I'm very excited because we get to meet someone. we get to meet someone for the first time.
Oh, I recognize that name.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one.
Is it next week already?
No, you have to wait.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah, alright, so we'll be back for that next week with Durka Returns, but like I said, that's it from us this week. Thank you for listening. If you want to support this podcast, you can check out the CantWearHats Patreon, which supports this and my Twitch streams and other projects, which is patreon.com/CantWearHats. And if you want to get in touch, you can find us on Twitter. I am at CantWearHats and Red is at Vidalkinintri.
Yes.
Hey, and if you want, you can leave us a comment on the YouTube page.
I try to read them each week.
Yep. And yeah, we hope you like the episode. We hope you like this episode of the podcast, even if you didn't like the episode of Farscape.
Yes, I think we should. At some point, we should do a Farscape rewatch podcast and just start.
How deep does this rabbit hole go?
Rate our own rewatch episodes.
Oh God, no! I already do that every week when I have to edit the bloody things.
That is fair, actually.
All right, well, that's it from us this week. Thank you for listening, and until next time, goodbye!
It's just, I'm so fed up with all this. It's just constantly, each week, talking to you, I'm done with this. I'm leaving.
No, Red, come back!
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, okay, sweet. You want to go for a chicken tikka masala?
Sounds good.